How can we not allow the next Ravi to develop? Because like when you read the report, it's kind of just kind of crazy to think about everything that kind of happened. Where like his phone and his computer on a different internet server than like everyone else at RZIM, and him just having this like control of ministry funds that was unchecked and anything like that.
Yeah.
So like, what can we do to prevent another Ravi from coming about and these terrible things?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, my colleague Alonzo, he's also my best friend other than my wife. He and I like have each other's thumbs in each other's phones until we got like a phone with a face, and like we have a password now with a face in each other's phones, because we've done a lot of travel and just life together. And we want to be able to just we want the other guy to be able to pick up our phone and just look through like anything. Like I want him to be able to, it's the same password, like the face and the thumb is the same password to my banking. I want the man to know my financials. I want him to know my spending. I want him to know anyone I've texted. I want him to know, to see my browsing history. I want him to know every part of me, because one, I want to be caught on the earliest side possible of toxic decisions, sinful behaviors. I want to be caught when it's like as light as possible, so that it doesn't snowball. And I find that a lot of people, myself included, make the worst decisions when we're lonely. And so I'm trying to cultivate not only like accountability and transparency in my life, practicing confession with a specific person who can, like Alonzo, so he can like know the depth of my shadows and brokenness. So on the one hand, it's kind of the serious, almost sad side of like talking about the heavy stuff, but then also I'm trying to cultivate vibrant friendships. And if you read in some of the reporting on Ravi, you can find quotes where he talks about his excruciating loneliness. None of that mitigates what he's done, but that I am watching to see, okay, what can I do differently to make sure that my own little small sphere, that I am not mirroring his behavior at all. And so, yeah, by cultivating like just precious friendships, making sure that we have friends, not fans. I hear pastors all the time say like pastoral ministry is so lonely. Well, that shows me that we have lost the value of friendship. We don't understand what church was designed to be, a community. Like if any pastor is part of a community, like they're pastoring a church. And if they're lonely when they're like part of this community, then it means that we have approached community, friendship in a way where they are above it, where they are removed from it, and so we need to make sure that like that pastors are like, you know what I'm saying? We all, every one of us needs friends, not fans. A huge book on this. I know you can't solve the world's problems with books, but if you could, a really good book is called Lead by Paul David Tripp. It was one of the huge, like, just helps for me this pastor processing. How can I cultivate my life differently? Another really, really good book on the topic, not by a Christian, is this one right here by the former CEO of Dunkin' Donuts. It's called The Challenge Culture. And it's about how to cultivate friendships and work relationships where we're inviting people to challenge us, to know us. I found it for $2 at on the side of the street, but you can also get it on Amazon. It's really
that's great.
Question, Zach, what are your thoughts? I know that like this is all must have made a huge impact on you, as you were like so immersed in the apologetics world. What are your thoughts on how we can avoid becoming or letting another Ravi become?
Yeah, this is something I've been thinking about, because I was just thinking about it as you were talking. Like, I don't think that Ravi, when he was preaching the gospel in Vietnam in the 1960s or 70s, I don't think he had this idea, this master plan where he'd become this like sexual predator and he'd think he'd get away with it and everyone would know about it. And I think, at least from my perspective, a lot of it comes back to what you were talking about in terms of like accountability and holiness. Because it seems like just reading the Ravi report, it seems like he just kind of went unchecked. There was no one who could go through Ravi's phone or see what was going on here and kind of check this power and say, hey, what's going on here? He kind of just was like just in charge, which is like, sometimes it seems like almost in like maybe like your churches or our ministries, like I'm not involved in pastoral ministry at all, but it almost seems like we're running it like a government. not like a church. Like in America, we have like the president who's the head. He's kind of on his own in the sense there. Whereas like in different governments, it may be different, but for here, that's kind of how it works. We've almost modeled our churches off those governments. So I think it's just finding that room for personal accountability. And no one should have, like you were talking about, how like Alonzo can check your phone. Everyone should have someone who can go through someone's phone and see everything that's going on. So I think just kind of reiterating that point is,
and my wife was attending a training that her work was doing recently on becoming more victim centered as a company, and she asked like, what is happening here for like for a Christian ministry? And she's like, so what are we doing to be trauma informed? And they talked about like services that are being provided to survivors of abuse. And my wife's follow-up question was, no, like not how are we making sure that victims are informed about trauma? If anything, they actually have a lot to teach us about trauma. How are we making sure that people who are just like our regular people in the pews are trauma informed and know how to handle when someone discloses to them? How do we make sure that our communities and our companies are more safer places for women and girls and all who are harmed by sexual abuse? And I don't know that there was a real clear answer on that. But that's what both she and I are hoping to do next post RZAM is like, we need to, like, every one of us should be trauma informed. Every one of us should be like, the number of girls who are sexually abused in the States is 1 of every 3 before they're 18. So if you factor in abuse that happens in university and beyond, the college and beyond, the numbers are higher. In Canada, we call college university. It's trippy. So like every one of us has sisters, moms, friends, as well as other guys in our life who are being sexually abused or have been sexually abused. Every one of us needs to go and find out how are we able to be advocates for them.